The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome staff, our LGC members, and our guests to the September 12th meeting of the North Carolina Local Government Commission. We're starting at 1:30 on time. Call the meeting to order and ask Cindy Aiken to call the roll and briefly describe our meeting procedures and our housekeeping.
Thank you. This is Cindy Aiken. My information was Auditor Wood is absent. Is that still the case? No change. Okay, absent. And Secretary Marshall, we have.
Bill Toll for Secretary Marshall.
Thank you. In person. Secretary Penny.
Here.
Mr. Burns. He's still there.
Here, I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I have to turn off my webcam to keep my connection, so I'll periodically do that. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you. And Mr. Butler?
Here.
Party is absent today. Councilwoman Hoffman absent. Mr. Philbeck?
Here.
Thank you. And Treasurer Falwell?
Here.
6 in attendance. We have a quorum. Let's see. Just as a reminder to everyone in the room, especially these meetings are being recorded. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available to the public pursuant to our department's recording public meetings policy. Everyone that is going to speak today, please remember to identify yourself when you are speaking. If you are participating virtually, please mute yourself when you are not speaking. If you lose power or have an AV connection problem, the meeting will continue as we sort things out. The audio video may continue to be broadcast here in the room, so just be aware of that. If you have a private conversation that you need to have, please step out of the room. The agenda is posted on the website www.nctreasurer.com at the LGC page. If we have changes to the agenda, it will be announced during the meeting. Without objection, all votes will be taken by roll call. If without objection of members, your motions and seconds will be considered as yes votes unless you want to indicate otherwise during the roll call vote. In attendance for the staff, Sharon Edmondson, Secretary, LGC, Jennifer Wimmer, Director of Debt Management, Kendra Boyle, Director of Fiscal Management, Debbie Tomasco, Director of Policy Tech and Operations. I'm Cindy Aiken, Counsel for the Commission, and Joa Bickley is doing tech. Louis Andrews, I believe, is virtually attending in case we need Louis, State Debt Director. That is the end of that. Thank you, Treasurer.
Thank you very much. I'll ask everyone to join in our pledge of allegiance. In honor of Secretary Marshall, the salute to our North Carolina flag, which is right behind you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of North Carolina
and pledge to the old North State of loyalty and faith.
Thank you all very much. Members, we have a conflict statement. Please take a moment to review the agenda. Does anyone have an actual, potential, or appearance of conflict of interest regarding any matters that are before?
I don't think mine is a conflict, and I know I'm always doing it, but out of an abundance of caution. I do own 2 houses and live in one of those houses that are serviced by electric cities. However, I think the ones we're talking about are in the west, mine are in the east.
Oh, and that was just a presentation.
Right.
No action item. Thank you, Secretary. No conflict that I see.
Any other conflicts? Hearing none.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, this is Mr. Burns. I like Mr. Penny. First of all, it's not an action item, so I'm not sure it would amount to a conflict, but just to be clear, I do work in the energy industry and I'm often in the same dockets as the municipal power agencies. we're sometimes on the same side and sometimes opposed, but it certainly wouldn't affect my vote in this case. But just wanted to let everybody know that.
Thank you, Mr.
I don't
Burns.
think it's certainly not a financial conflict.
Thank you very much. If you'll do what I did not do, which is mute your phones, there you go. We'll now entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes. Without objection, anybody who makes a motion or second to a motion will be considered a yes vote. Do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes of August 1st?
Move approval.
Thank you, Secretary. Motion being made, second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion second being made to approve the meeting minutes of August 1st. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
August 1st minutes approval, Penny Butler, Mr. Tool,
Aye.
Mr. Burns,
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck,
Aye.
and Treasurer Falwell.
Aye. Okay. Next, I'd like to call your attention to Attachment A, which is our OPEB report. For members in the audience, this is a report that we do to bring our local governments with even more awareness to their unfunded pension and healthcare liabilities. And as things come before us, we'd like to draw that to their attention. Next, maybe this is the best news of the day. We're on now to Attachment B, and I turn the meeting over to Sharon.
Treasurer, this is one of the best things that we get to do. It is infrequently because we take action so infrequently to assume control of even the government's finances. So it's always a good day when we get to give that control back. And we are today giving control back to the town of Robertsonville. And they have done a lot of hard work in the amount of time that we have been present there. Still got some things left to do, that they have taken a lot of responsibility on themselves and relied on our staff less and less as the time has gone by. And we feel like they are in a good position to step back in and manage their own fate at this point. This doesn't mean that we're just walking away. We will still be available for consultation and assistance whenever needed, and we will check in with them regularly. They do have basically a to-do list of things that we expect to do over the next 6 months to a year. So I do want to recognize the guests that are here from Robertsonville, and on behalf of Robertsonville, Representative Willingham,
They're in session.
the Robertsonville town staff, Mayor Tina, and elected officials, Mayor Tina Brown. Yeah, come on up. We're going to have to take some pictures too. So, Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Wilkins, Councilwoman Deborah Armstrong, Chris Robertson, Town Manager, Angela Bagley, the Finance Officer, and Anisha Crandall, the Town Clerk. I also want to take just a moment to recognize our staff that put in so many hours, so many miles on our van. Kendra Boyle and Becky Jingaleski just really put in the work with Robertsonville. And I really appreciate their efforts and the staff and Robertsonville's cooperation with our staff. And I don't think we'd be here today if they hadn't figured out a way to get along and do what needed to be done.
Whatever you just said, come up.
Yep. Kendra and Becky, come on.
And can you guys just come around to the
Secretary Penny.
try to can you come to the middle so I can get a picture? They go to the front, we'll have the cameras too.
All of
Not
They
worried
really
about that. I think
away from the TV.
Yeah, you're good. That way.
So, at the treasurer's office, we watched the pennies and paper clips, so we spared no expense in giving you the city map. Which is right here. And, for those of you who don't join us very often, we have 549 mayors. My contact list is only one that says mayor. And I remember about 3 years ago, during COVID, we were meeting up in our conference room. And staff was scheduling in a lot of extra time because we were taking over this town because of the controversy associated. The mayor showed up that day and thanked us. It was so great. Said, if my memory is good, which I think it is, when she ran for mayor, she had no idea this town was in a position. Through tough choices, discipline, communication with our staff, we've now gotten to the point where we are returning this town back to its local legislators. So I just want to congratulate you and give you an opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you so much.
Don't lose it.
I want to cherish this forever. I just want to say thank you to the local government commission staff, everyone involved, and to our staff and council people at the town of Robinsonville. No, we weren't expecting, to have surrender our town to the state, but I am glad that we went through what we went through because it makes us better and stronger. And it just shows that we are resilient, and this is just the beginning. So I thank you again, Becky and Kendra. Can't thank you enough for your patience with all of us. I know it wasn't easy. As much as we love you girls, ladies, and we appreciate everything, we are so glad to have you visit someone else. But I know it's something that, definitely the LGC does not want to do, visit a town, take over, but sometimes it's needed. Thank you for saving us. Appreciate all of you, the board, for supporting us.
Congratulations.
Anyone want to say anything? Thank you again. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Treasure.
I'm actually, have to schedule for it.
We're gonna vote on that.
Well done.
Mayor, I just wanted to thank you for all the effort that you put into this, but also the example that you set in how to work with us. And it means a lot. I think the last time we returned the town back to its rightful owners was Hosky. Is that
Like,
right, Bill?
a few months ago.
Those.
How many towns do we still have? We're responsible.
5 with
Still have 5.
Kingstown, Spring Lake, Eureka, Cliffside Sanitary District, and Spencer.
Technically 6, because we haven't made a motion or carried this one yet.
Do what?
Yes.
So,
Is that a motion?
so we have a resolution that I don't think I need to read, but I'll be glad to
Move the resolution.
okay. Move the resolution. Secretary Penny makes a motion to move the resolution.
I second that motion.
Second to the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Okay, resolution to return financial control to Robertsonville. That's Penny and Butler. Mr. Tool.
Approve.
Thank you. Mr. Burns.
A proud and enthusiastic aye.
Thank you, sir.
Well done.
And Mr. Philbeck.
Aye.
Thank you. And Treasurer.
Aye.
Okay, thanks.
Congratulations. Thank you all. Now we're going to turn the meeting over to Jennifer and Kendra to go over attachment C, which are our unit assistant list units, which include Bellhaven and Roxborough, and one of our FDIC units, which is Bay. Don't lose that key.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Wimmer, and I will be covering the unit assistant list units. As you recall, we've only had one other unit come before the commission as we're reviewing these units that by change in statute, Section Law 2022-53, the purchase of these vehicles, which the town of Bellhaven is requesting, will come to the commission. So they do have $160,000 installment purchase with Southern Bank, interest rate of 4.85% for the term of 5 years. I'll turn it over to Kendra.
Good afternoon, members of the commission. This unit that we're going to talk about right at the moment, the town of Bellhaven, as Jennifer said, normally this would not come to you because of the amount and because it was for vehicles, but because of Senate Bill 265 and that it is a unit on the unit assistance list, it does have to come to you for approval. Bellhaven is on the unit assistance list for multiple reasons, the biggest of which is that we do not yet have the fiscal audit from them. And the fiscal year 2021 audit showed us that they had some issues with their water and sewer and electric funds. And also that the reason that they were late in 21 and are late now, it has to do with turnover in their finance staff. And also during the time that they were in transition of finance staff, they had a conversion on their accounting software. And as you've heard many times, an accounting a conversion on that accounting software is very difficult to go through and can cause quite a few problems. And that's what Bellhaven has experienced. So I've had conversations with the unit and with their third-party CPA firm. And they have indicated that the financial statements have been worked on. They've sent an adjusted trial balance for fiscal year 22 to their auditor. That just happened late last week. So their auditor is in the process of going through those that trial balance and has begun the work on the fiscal year 22 audit. In fiscal year 21 and then also again in fiscal year 23 to address their issues in their water and sewer fund, they have made some changes to the minimum gallons and that they charge for their units of local government, to their customers in hopes that that would help the operations of those funds. And then they have, in fiscal year 24, they're conducting a study to ensure that all their utility rates are adequate to support their enterprise operations. Due to the fact that the fiscal year 21 audit report has been so late, and then also that 22 and 23 will most likely be late, I anticipate that we'll see the same type of issues in those audit reports. But after all these conversations and reviewing their fiscal year 24 budget, we expect that they're on the right track to improve these financial performance indicators. And we do see that they're moving in a very positive direction. They are under a fiscal accountability agreement with us, and they have been cooperative in all the monitoring that our coach team staff is doing. And right now they are looking to purchase a police vehicle and then 3 work trucks. And that police vehicle, of course, the debt service will be paid out of the general fund.
And then the 3 work trucks that debt service will be paid will be split between the general and enterprise funds. They have spent in the last year $40,000 on repairs on their vehicles because of the age of their fleet. And they believe that the best use of their public dollars are to purchase new vehicles that will require less maintenance, and that they would be able to cover the debt service on that with the savings that they get from repairs. So we have believed that the town has established a need for this financing, and we'll welcome questions, or I turn it back over to the chair for.
Any questions regarding staff's recommendations on Bellhaven or Roxborough or the FDIC on Maiden? Sorry.
This is just for Bellhaven.
Okay. Any questions? No objection to voting on all these at once, Cindy?
It's up to you. It's up to the commission.
And joining us from Bellhaven are Lynn Davis and Jackie are joining us virtually. I guess you're with us. Thank you for being with us. Want to remind Bellhaven their OPEB liability is $421,000. Their pension liability is $235,000. So, do you have anything to add very quickly, Lynn or Jackie?
Just thank you for your consideration of this. I think the points that have been made, I appreciate the faith in our community. We are working diligently to resolve the issues and anticipate that we will be in compliance with audits. We're thinking January of 24. So we are moving in a positive direction, but this is going to help us to ensure that our day-to-day activities throughout our town are handled in a manner that is responsible and responsive to our taxpayers.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll go to Roxborough.
The city of Roxborough, it is coming to the commission. Again, this is a unit assistant list unit. They have ordered and have received a fire truck, and they are looking to have a long-term installment purchase for the purchase of that fire truck for $543,990 for 10 years. And it's through the Piedmont Electrical Membership Corporation, which the USDA Rural Economic Development Grant Program. So this time I'll turn it over to Kendra for the explanation.
So the city of Roxborough had 3 financial performance indicators of concern for fiscal year 22. They had an established trend of a decreasing fund balance in their general fund and substantial operating loss in the water and sewer fund operations. The city's response to their FDIC regarding the decrease in the fund balance is that they have increased property taxes. They increased in 2023 to 0.7 was their property tax rate. And then again, in this budget year 2024, they've increased it to 0.8. This is in hopes to increase their fund balance available because they do recognize the need to have that number much higher. They have an internal fund balance policy of having 25%. And so that's something that's very important to them to maintain. Their water and sewer fund they have increased those billing rates 3 out of the last 4 years in order to be able to cover their debt service. And then they also have an FPIC for having a late audit. They had I think it was in fiscal year 21, there was a cyber attack with the county, and that affected their ability to be able to keep their accounting records. And then they had an auditor who just decided to not continue in the governmental auditing field about midway through the audit period. And so that put them behind as well. But they are working on getting that fixed. They do recognize the need to submit their audits timely and the importance of doing that. To purchase this fire truck would allow them to retire a 22-year-old fire truck that they have in their fleet. And to be able to do that would help and to make sure that their insurance rates do not increase for their citizens. So they have recognized the need to make sure that their fleet's age decreases. And we believe that the town has established a need for this.
Thank you. Nathan? Oh, excuse me. We have some folks. I was trying to turn the temperature down in here. Bellhaven, we have Lynn.
Mr. Treasurer, I don't think any of the three are here with us.
Foxborough. That's what I was getting at. All right. Thank you. Maybe?
Ask a question.
Yes.
And you indicate on our form that they have to have tax increases. Is that in addition to moving from 7 to 8? They're going to need, or beyond that?
I believe that they anticipated that they needed to do this financing and that into account.
So there will be, other than the one they did effective this year, there's not a projection.
They do not anticipate doing that again. They do have a revaluation coming up, but they also think that in conjunction with the increase will help them tremendously cover their balance and finance this.
The town of Maiden is not a unit assistant list unit. However, they do have FPICs that need to be discussed. They are coming for an installment purchase of $7.5 million with a 20-year loan through Truist at an interest rate of 4.98%. Currently, they have outgrown their fire station and cannot house full-time staff or have new fire trucks because of the size at the fire station. So they are requesting to construct this new fire station.
Three seems to be the magic number with these units. They had 3 FPICs as well from fiscal year 22, some of which were related to negative cash flows from operations in their water and electric funds, and the other was related to a budget violation in their general fund. The town has submitted a timely response to their FPICs, and that response regarding the water and sewer negative cash flow from operations explained that although they have raised their water and sewer rates, they experienced an unanticipated level of inflation in their expenditures for the water and sewer fund. And then in addition to that inflation and affecting their electric fund, they had a large industrial customer who had a lower water usage in the last quarter of the year that resulted in them taking in a lower than anticipated amount of revenue right there at the end of the year. And then the budget violation that they had in the general fund was a result of they made an effort to pay off their fire department debt. They had a payoff amount that they had budgeted, and when it came time at the end of the year to make that payoff, it turned out to be higher than what was budgeted, and that resulted in the budget violation. So when I spoke with their finance officer, who is relatively new to the unit, we discussed the fact that there is the ability in their accounting software to prevent any kind of over encumbrance or over expenditures. She did not know that feature was not enabled in their accounting system until they had this budget violation, but she has since rectified that situation so that they cannot do that in their accounting system. So that seems to be a one-time thing. We do not anticipate that happening again for them. And then we've talked about the budget to actuals for fiscal year 23. And it appears that this one large customer with the lower usage, that's an anomaly. That did not happen again in fiscal year 23. So this debt service will be out of the general fund, which has a 39% fund balance available at the end of fiscal year 22. So it does not appear that it will, while it will affect that fund balance, they'll still have an amount above the threshold for what we distinguish as being acceptable. So we have found the town's response to be acceptable.
Any questions from members? Okay. Hearing none, ready for the vote? All those three together. Jessica White, thank you for joining us.
Hello, happy to be here.
Thank you. With that, we'll entertain a motion to approve all these based on staff's recommendation of Bellhaven, Roxborough, and Maiden. Do I hear a motion?
Move approval, Philbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Philback. Second.
Second, Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Once again, this is for all three, Bellhaven, Roxborough, and Maiden. Philbeck, Burns, Mr. Toole,
Aye.
Secretary Penny,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Treasurer Falwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Carries.
Now we're next to our consent agenda, which is attachment D, which is going to take us all the way through Apex through the miscellaneous item for the city of Kernersville. I'd like to draw your attention before we vote on the consent agenda. You're seeing a lot on here that I'm getting questions about regarding Charlotte Airport, Mecklenburg County, and the city of Charlotte. As you can see from our summary sheet, these are gigantic numbers. A revenue bond anticipation note, Charlotte, $250 million, $280 million. A revenue bond for the airport expansion projects at the Charlotte International Airport. Part of those are going to be associated with arrangements made with the airlines regarding ticketing and gating, about the debt service on those bonds, $475 million, $500 million. You may have read recently, there's been negotiation after the sale of the Charlotte Hornets for the Spectrum Center, $110 million there, certificate of participation, bond participation note. And if you read the paper, you will find that the county commissioners are putting forth what was previously a $3 billion bond referendum to the voters, which is now a $2.5 billion bond. So you're seeing Charlotte, you're seeing Mecklenburg, you're seeing the airport, and you're thinking that sure is a lot of money. It sure is a lot of money. So I wanted to draw members' attention to that. In addition to that, as it relates to Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, something I've talked about for well over a decade. Mecklenburg County has $470 million worth of unfunded healthcare liabilities. The city of Charlotte, they, like the city of Winston-Salem, 33 years ago, started putting money toward their unfunded healthcare liabilities based on what they saw happen in Winston-Salem. And they have $131 million in the bank. So they have $332 million unfunded healthcare liabilities. So I've always applauded and exalted city of Winston-Salem for starting this 30-some years ago. People think I invented this, but I didn't. Somebody saw it 3 decades ago. And then Mecklenburg County under Mayor Benroot following suit. Their unfunded total of their LEO and their pension liability is about $187 million for the LEO liability for the pension plan. So total net liability for OPEB and pensions, city of Charlotte, is is $500,000. That $500 million, thank you very much. That does not include Mecklenburg County, which has an equal one. Nobody in the room is going to hear this, but I look forward to the time when the county of Wake and the city of Raleigh starts to do what Winston-Salem and Charlotte did many, many years ago. Because I think Wake County and Raleigh have a combined liability of nearly $1 billion. And the county commission will start putting something toward that this year before the outgoing chairman left. So we're thankful for that. With that, does anybody request that?
I'd just like to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
Since we got a lot of folks here, I hope everybody here heard that the Hornets, where they play, is owned by the city. It is not owned by a private individual. The stadium is owned by a city. The airport, which many people can not get in their mind, that the airport stands alone. The airport tried to stand alone a number of years ago. Bills were introduced to make it a regional airport, and it was fine until it got to New York. And when the Bond Boys in New York came back and told the folks in Charlotte, do you want to go from a AAA to a triple B? So I run into it all the time about they stand alone, how important the airport is, what happens with the Hornets. But none of it would have happened without the stadium, without the city being in there. And the same with the Durham Bulls. The Bulls are owned by the city of Durham. So I just, while I have such a group of people, I like to share with that, particularly in an environment like this, when you see what the actual numbers are. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Hearing no one wishing to remove anything from the consent agenda, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I do have one question.
To the motion. In a second.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve. Philbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Philbeck. Second.
Second, Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Motion second being made. Further discussion.
On the $110 million for the Spectrum Arena, and under financing, we probably got a lot of really smart finance guys here today. Can someone explain to me what the actual interest rate is? I'd like to read what it says. It says 79% multiplied by the daily SOFR plus 35% of the base points. Jennifer, can you tell me what a number I can understand?
So the revenue bonds are the bond anticipation. So instead of being a percent of LIBOR, which one way SOFR, and then adding a 39 basis point just to that. So I can get you what today's rate is, but they're gonna close, I think it's
slightly
in the
less
month.
than 4.5%.
What?
It's slightly less than 4.5%
So
today,
what it is today,
Today.
that's what it would be at 4.5%.
using the 79%
All
discount.
right, thank you. I needed a little explanation on that.
All right, we have a motion second on the table. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call a roll regarding the consent agenda.
Thank you. The consent agenda again covers the town of Apex through the Kernersville miscellaneous action item. Motion Philbeck, second Burns. Mr. Toole?
Aye.
Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Mr. Butler?
Aye.
And Treasurer Falwell?
Aye. We're now on to our agenda item to discuss the New Hanover County project race. Oh, sorry. Jennifer, two other non-action items, please.
Sure. The first one is Cleveland County Water. They needed to finish the construction of their project before the USDA would permanently finance this project. So they're looking for an extension of time so that they can finish the construction. And the other one is Town of Oxford, and it's a loan reallocation. There's no funds involved. We're just moving it to a project that is higher priority.
Now on to our discussion item regarding New Hanover County Project Grace. I understand, obviously, there's a ton of people here regarding Project Grace. There may be a handout that has been handed out or will be handed out. It's a discussion item only. I want to tell the folks that are here, contrary to what either staff or folks down there have said, I have never opined about the need for a library. I've never opined about the need for a new museum. I've never negatively opined about the need to combine those two into one facility. So anybody who says that is completely inaccurate. Secondly, the reason that this is on the agenda today for discussion items is that we intend to put it on the agenda for October. We set the schedule almost a year ago for our local government commission to be meeting in Boone in October. Last year was the first time ever that we've taken the local government commission out of Raleigh. And we're trying to take Raleigh to other people from time to time. Last year it was Wilmington and Western Carolina, Cullowhee, and then Terrell County at the 4-H camp, and then also in Watauga County in October. So I didn't think it was courteous to make these folks travel from Wilmington to Boone in October, even though that's not a bad time to be there. But that's why I decided to put this on the agenda today for discussion item, and it'll be a voting item in October. I believe this is the second time within a year that Project Grace has been on the agenda to be voted on with different developers. I also want to say that I was not totally aware that Secretary Auditor Wood, as well as Mrs. Harvey, would be unavailable either by Zoom or phone today. And I thought it was good that they all be there to vote on this. So this is where we are. I'd like to extend, without any objection, to 5 minutes for folks to present Project Grace 2.0. And also, contrary to what has either been said by staff or other folks in Wilmington, New Hanover County, there was never, ever going to be an opportunity for anybody to speak in opposition of Opposition Grace without the proponents of Opposition Grace also given an opportunity. That's not how I roll. I've never conducted a meeting like that. So anybody who has spread that through text messages or through other means, which people have forwarded to me over the last 24 hours, they're also inaccurate. So with that, you want to solo this? You want to have somebody sitting beside you? Thank you. Yeah, sure. Is it okay if I hand it out? Yeah, of course. Just hand them all to her and they'll pass them down.
Mr. Treasurer, half updates, please. You have the county commissioner. I would happy for these matters, these materials to be distributed to you, and would like to defer first comments to Ms. Hill, who I understand is here to speak in opposition to the program, and then I'll speak after her if that meets with your approval.
We'll just go ahead and go since you're sitting there.
Okay.
Treasurer, this is the final.
Yeah, sure.
I'll hold up for 1 minute. The time is up. Thanks.
Of the LGC, again, my name is Dean Scalise, New Hanover County Commissioner. I'm joined by fellow commissioners, Chair Bill Rivenbark, Commissioner Jonathan Barfield. We also have Vice Chair Pierce, Leanne Pierce, and Commissioner Rob Zappel that were unable to be here today. But the five of us at every opportunity this year where we've considered this program, this project, have voted unanimously bipartisanly to advance. Interestingly enough, this project has actually been something that we've been working on in some form or fashion as a county government for about 9 years. Since 2014, whenever we completed the purchase of an entire city block in downtown Wilmington, we've been planning, thinking, researching how can we make the best impact for our community on this entire city block that we own. And over the course of those years, I believe 13 different commissioners have reviewed this project and have voted in favor of this project because all of us unanimously, bipartisanly, have recognized the potential that this project presents to Hanover County. So as a policy matter, I think that it's really important to lay out that this is something that we've thought deeply about for quite a long time. And we have considered the opinions of the community, some of those folks you might hear from today. Some of them don't agree with it. But the overwhelming majority of the community throughout the years, and we have had public forums, hearings, meetings like one last week with one of our downtown economic development groups called WDI, Wilmington Downtown Incorporated. I used to be chair of that organization, great volunteer organization. Over 300 people came out to hear about Project Grace. Community members, business leaders, people who are directly invested and live in New Hanover County. And those people were very excited about the proposition that we have presented to you. I actually agree with you completely, Mr. Treasurer, that one of the things that we're perhaps losing sight of is this process that we're in. We don't need to make this more complicated than it is. It's not my desire for it to be complicated. I respect the work of the LGC. My fellow commissioners respect the work of the LGC. The staff at New Hanover County greatly respects the work of the LGC members and its staff. Thank you very much for what you've done to help us move along with this process, because as you pointed out, it's actually something that we're coming back around to. We were here last year. Different developer, different concept. Y'all actually gave us some feedback and you said, we think that you need to restructure this deal. We heard you. We went back and we did that. We've restructured the deal to reflect the suggestions that we received from y'all because we recognize that the LGC plays an important role in making sure that counties and municipalities do the right things whenever it comes to the tax dollars that they're spending, whenever they're taking out debt service. We haven't taken that lightly. We've taken it very seriously. But I also want to point out that this is something that matters so much to our community that it's not just me and some of my fellow commissioners and my staff. They have to come with me. It's other folks who don't have to be here, who are in this room. Other folks who live in New Hanover County, who work in New Hanover County, who have families in New Hanover County, represent the Chamber of Commerce, represent Wilmington Downtown Incorporated, other private businesses. They came up here today because they wanted to demonstrate to you all, because they care about what you all think, that they care about Project Grace. They want us to move forward with Project Grace. So I want to give you a brief sketch about what Project Grace is. I know that you've been inundated with emails and materials from us, and I do apologize, but it is the nature of these sort of things. Whenever you want something and you're convinced that it's the right thing, you want to make every effort that you can to explain why. Project Grace is a concept, again, of reforming, transforming an underutilized block in downtown Wilmington. We purchased, again, the entire block in 2014, and we have conceived of a plan where we're going to combine our downtown library, which is in honestly pitiful shape, with a museum that's a bit off-site into one purpose-built building on one portion of the block. We're going to make some efforts to improve an existing parking deck to create some more parking. And then we're going to, by a process of selling to a private developer, the new developer that you've identified that's no longer the old one, with the new deal that we put in place per the recommendations of the LGC, an opportunity to build on that other parcel of the block, something meaningful, something that's going to go onto the tax rolls.
Set the record straight. The LGC never recommended for you to change developers.
That was not what I said, sir. I said that y'all made some recommendations for deal structure. That was what I was alluding to. If I might give a little bit, time is up. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's up to
I'm sure there's going to be question and answers here. Just take a couple of minutes, please. It's fine.
proceed.
I'll try to wrap things up as well as I can. We have a concept that is going to, in combination with this public-private partnership, put a library museum on one portion and then have this new developer spend at least $30 million on new buildings that are going to go on the tax rolls, that are going to increase the value of nearby buildings, nearby businesses, give a new place for families who are coming to Wilmington to either visit or who live there to come and spend time. We think that this is the right policy decision for New Hanover County. We respect that you all have the role that you do to make sure that we're spending our money wisely. I would commend to you that we have the capacity to pay back the debt that is contemplated. And so thank you very much for already suggesting that we'll have a vote on this in October. That's really what we want. If there are questions that we can answer today or otherwise, I want to assure you it is our desire to be as transparent as possible with all of the members of the LGC, because again, we are asking you to please approve this debt application that we have submitted to you. If something is not in line, please let us know so that we can remedy it. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Take a couple minutes.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Eric Cradle. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the county. I'll just do the slides very briefly.
Why don't you just set the record straight that you weren't you've made sure I'm straight on the fact that when you joined this whole process. So why don't you say that? When did you become the Chief Financial Officer?
Okay. I joined the county in June of last year, June of 22. Yes, sir.
I'll say that as a compliment to you.
Okay.
Not as a, it's important that when you go with something that's been around for 9 years before I was even the treasurer, it's important that people know who has been around through that whole thing and who hasn't.
Thank you. I should have mentioned that and introduced myself. Thank you. Second slide, again, I'm going to go through here very briefly in the interest of time. I think everybody probably knows where Project Grace is, but it's right in the heart of downtown Wilmington. It's highlighted in blue. Courthouse, City Hall, Bellion Hall are all in close proximity. The next slide shows all the redevelopment that's taken place in close proximity to the Project Grace. Downtown Wilmington is booming. Lots of great things going on there. Unfortunately, our block is undeveloped and is sort of a blight on the entire area. Vision is to create a building, 95,000 square feet for a new modern library and a new modern museum. We'll see here in just a couple slides. We've got the library was built in 1952 and it still looks exactly like it did when it was built. And our museum is a mile away. It was built in 1936, I think. It's just not what the community needs an upgrade to both facilities. The next page just sort of shows visually what's going to happen. Commissioner Scalise already noted the private side is going to be represented in kind of the green. That's where that pointer is, right where the library currently is. And then the blue is going to be the new museum and library with the deck that's currently there still in the middle. The next two slides show the state of the facility as it is now. We've got an old building, an old car dealership that's on the public side that's there, needs to be taken down. You've got the parking deck on the next page. You can see a picture from the 1950s of the built area of the building that was there. Upper right-hand picture is a very recent picture. Looks very much the same. So the idea is the library museum is going to look nice and modern. Next page. Then we've got a development agreement we can get into. There's some details. The new not to exceed price for this project is $55.9 million. And again, contemplated in this is that we would sell the private side to the private developer at an appraised value based on 2 appraisals, and that they would then also agree within 24 months to build a building at least $30 million investment. The next page, development.
Gives our mind. Why does one have to come with the other? Why does the construction of the museum and library not to exceed? Why does that have to be connected at the hip to the sale of other property to the development? So why couldn't that be subject to upset bid?
Mr. Treasurer, if I may.
Mind if I give a stab at it, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Just pull up a chair. Pull up a chair and introduce yourself. Everybody knows who you are.
We'll speak as a team. I want to take one effort to address that. We have in Wilmington a couple of lots that I can think of where somebody, usually an out-of-state investor, developer, will buy up a parcel and for instance, an old Bank of America lot that we have that's been sitting with no kind of development whatsoever on it for 20 years. The concept behind Project Grace is to deliberately redevelop an entire city block. And state law, as we understand it and have consulted with the School of Government on this, and our legal counsel can speak to it as well, does not allow us to put conditions on an upset bid process as you're describing it. In connection with the statute, though, that we are utilizing for this public-private partnership, we can put some conditions on there that allow us to tell the private developer who's coming in to buy this at a good price point, you have to build it within that 24-month period and you have to spend $30 million. Otherwise, we may just have a lot that sits there and does nothing. That's not our objective from a policy perspective.
Okay. You're saying that I disagree with you, but anyway, we'll continue on. Sounds a little inelegant, slightly snarky. You built your brand new county building beside a men's club. So I don't see much evidence that you really care much about the development next to you if you built a brand new county building beside a strip club.
I've seen those comments of yours in our local media, sir.
It's accurate.
I understand. It is in fact the case that we have been in what used to be essentially an old mall and made use of that for as long as we could, and then ultimately entered into an arrangement to have a purpose-built building that would house all of our employees, and we have quite a few, and we used the location that was available to us, sir. We thought that it was an appropriate location, and we still think so.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman or Mr. Treasurer, are we in a presentation part or a question and answer part? I'd like to know whether the rest of us would be able to ask questions as well.
Of course. I'm going to give the county manager, he came up to the table, wants to say a word or two. Mr. Burns, then we'll close down that part, let the other folks speak for a lot of time, and then we'll go to discussion. Is that fair? Mr.
That
Burns?
sounds good to me.
Okay.
Mr. Treasurer, to the commission, I could not answer the question better than Commissioner Scalise did about why we have disposition of the property as part of this development agreement. 100% about ensuring that the county has influence, direction, and control over what the private development is. And it's been the opinion of our legal counsel, of the School of Government, and our bond counsel that the only way to do that is through a public-private partnership. Those do not allow us to attach conditions in a traditional upset bid process. So it's about full and complete control. So thank you for letting me add my voice to that.
And if somebody showed you different, you'd be interested in that information, right?
We have not had evidence presented to us by legal counsel that we retain and or independent of us, the School of Government.
I would say in further answer to that, it's essential that we trust our legal counsel to provide us with good legal counsel. We have no reason to doubt that our legal counsel has given us correct information. Certainly our legal counsel would be willing to speak with anybody about alternate views on this subject. But at present, I think that it's essential for us as government officials to say, hire good people to give us good legal advice, and we do, sir.
Essentially, you all are engaged in this because essentially what you want out of it is the ability to control what goes on that other part of that lot. If there's some other way of doing that, you would certainly consider it, but you have to have the ability to mandate the development of that lot with the vision, within the vision.
Yes, sir.
that you have.
I would say, sir, that that's precisely correct. And in fact, not would consider it, have considered it. It's something that we've considered at various inflection points as this process has unfolded. And one of the policy decisions that the commission made in the past was the best way for us to ensure that this portion of the project is done, is completed in a timely manner, is to place these conditions in connection with the public-private partnership that's allowable.
Thank you.
Yes.
May I add?
Let's, I want to honor what I told Mr. Burns I was going to do. So, Secretary Penny, based on what I told Mr. Burns, I'd like to give the other folks an opportunity to speak. And then we'll open up for discussion and we'll yield to you immediately when that time comes.
I mean, Mr. Burns was ahead of me. I was just trying to clarify so I understood.
Okay, thank you. Just,
Would you like for us to step away at the moment, sir?
yeah, I think that's
All right,
fair.
thank you.
Not too far.
All right. Question
Yes.
from the timekeeper. So the original presentation was about 6-7 minutes. And then we've got 8 minutes of questions. So what would you like, Ms. Hill?
Is 10 minutes enough for you, ma'am?
Just, you gave me 15 last time, and I, 10's fine. I wish I could have stood next to Mr. Scalise and sort of like a Key and Peele thing, where every time he said something, I could say something.
Just introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Diana Hill. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina, and I've only been fighting this for 6 years. Obviously, it's been going on for 9 years, but the county didn't tell us all that. So thank you, Treasurer Fulwell and other commissioners and staff for allowing me to speak regarding this ill-conceived project. From the outset, there was no opportunity for a developer to offer the best update for our main library and our Cape Fear. Sorry, my voice is shaking. That's what happens. The commissioners designed the FRP so that the two would have to be combined and confined. Then the commissioners requested and lobbied for a bill just for this one block in North Carolina so that they could, thank you, it's nerves. If there's vodka in this, I'm okay. Okay. So they lobbied for and requested and lobbied a bill just for this one block in North Carolina, so they can determine how to handle this project. Now they're hiding behind that same law to say that they have no alternatives. If you've ever seen anybody try to fit a round peg into a round hole into a square peg, then you probably have missed out watching the commissioners try to adjust the parking deck to meet this new design of the Art Center. There's chances that they will have to do some kind of renovation on the parking deck, so they'll have access into the Art Center, which might cause them to enclose the parking deck, which might cause them to then ventilate the parking deck. I've never seen anybody work so hard to make something that is not unnecessary happen in our community. When you hear that they have the community behind them, they're talking about the business community, of which all of them are part. We have 3 realtors, 1 contractor, and an ABC store retiree. Of the 10 speakers at the most recent commission meeting, 8 of them were realtors, chamber members, or WDI members. WDI is almost an offset of the chamber. Granted, there are many realtors, developers, and contractors in New Hanover County, but they are not the majority of our county. Actually, those are some of the more disparaged professions in our area. Since April, I have been meeting with Brian Eckel and Mike Brown of Cape Fear Commercial. Although we've come from 2 different directions and their hands are sort of tied by what the county has requested that require them to do, we've been working with a lot of respect. I appreciate both of their time. They've spent I'm probably, since April, we've probably met, I don't know how many times. But they were willing, something that I could not get the county commissioners to do. They were willing to go back to Durham Library with me for a second trip. We have both been there twice separately. We went back together just a couple weeks ago to see if there were any components that could possibly be salvaged for Project Grace. But of course, when you downsize the library by 66%, there's no way you can do what Durham did for their community. It's time, in my opinion, it's past time for the county to start working for the residents as they promised they would after the New Hanover High School shooting. They promised a safe place for our youth to spend time. I sincerely believe that if the county was really interested in the best use of the library and that entire block, they would allow Cape Fear Commercial to bring their own ideas to this block, renovate the main library, which, by the way, is not falling down or any of the description that Mr. Scalise said, and they would rebuild on the Gray Street side. There's no reason to knock down a 1,500-ton building so on one side of the block so you can build something else on the other side of the block. It just doesn't even make sense. The other side of the block that's empty. They have a blank slate on Gray Street. They need to put their taxable properties over there and leave our library and our museum alone. What good is it for us taxpayers to continue to pay higher property appraisals, higher taxes, and then lose our county hospital, lose our main library, lose our full-time museum, and end up with one of the other things we have in New Hanover County is a very mediocre, and that's a compliment, school system. Our public school system is really in a problem. So we need you, if you will, be so kind to put this back again until these people can go back to the drawing board. And although I'm the only one here, I like to travel alone. There are hundreds, thousands of people in New Hanover County that feel the same way I do. And if they don't, if they want to pretend like they don't believe that, then I suggest they put this on the ballot and just see how many people really want their main library downsized and their museum to be a part-time exhibit space. Okay, any questions? I'm good at questions.
Let's do this. Sam, won't you just scoot that table right there, this table, it's like 45 degrees, just a little bit. And tell me your last name again.
Hill, Hill.
We'll just let her sit over there and let the other folks come back up, and then just a little bit.
If you'd like, Mr. Treasurer, we're happy to stand whenever we speak to you. Okay.
Just trying to make everybody comfortable in a private room. So that's good. Thank you, sir. That's good.
Things should start moving now on that property.
We'll open up for discussion, and Mr. Penny had the.
No, Mr. Burns next.
He wanted me to tighten up the process of what we were going to discuss.
Oh, but well, let me ask a couple of Ms. Hill.
Would somebody mute your phone, please, so we can hear?
I'm loud, I think. Your comments, I was trying to sort of organize them in my mind. Am I correctly, would I be correct in summarizing your comments to say you feel that this project is not the right priority for the county, that there are higher priorities or different priorities that are better served with the resources, both money and land? Is that?
Yeah, as it relates, thank you for the question. As it relates to both the museum and the libraries, I believe that this is a very ill-conceived.
Now, why do you, tell me why?
Okay, because I don't know if you've had a chance to go to Durham Public Library. I think somebody had.
I worked in Durham.
Oh, okay. Well, so they enlarged their library, made it almost as big as our library, so that they could put several components in there that would serve their constituency, mostly their young people. I would like to see our library, which is already the same size, put those components in. The museum, the Cape Fear Museum, now they're going to move to this art center, and it's going to be confined. So, but they're only going to be temporary exhibits. Now, whether it's going to be 6 months, 3 months, 2 weeks, I have no idea. But they're going to be schlepping exhibits down to the temporary library, to the new museum rather, and then back up. So we won't have the full, nobody will have the full picture of what the history is of New Hanover County. And New Hanover County, as everybody's heard me say for 100 years, we have all of the examples of everything that's happened east of the Mississippi happened in New Hanover County. Plus, the first European to explore the Atlantic Ocean made landfall. That's why one of our biggest developments called landfall.
Short up your answer, please.
Okay. So the first European to explore Atlantic Ocean and also the 1898 insurrection are two more things that only happened in New Hanover County. So, sorry. Yes.
Very important things.
One of them very sad. Now, is what she's saying true? Are we reducing the library by 66%?
Yes, sir. It is true that our library has a lot of space that is not usable. We have performed any number of engineering studies to determine that we have some limitations on the upper floors. There are some flooding and water concerns in our basement. And quite frankly, the nature of libraries in this day and age is not as it once was.
But now this new development is going to have a library, right?
Yes, sir. It's going to have a purpose-built library and museum. And I will concede readily that Ms. Hill disagrees stridently with our policy decisions. She has made clear that she does not agree with our policy decisions at essentially every public hearing that we've had on this. And we welcome her to do that. But as I indicated previously, we of course believe that this is a policy decision for the Hanover County Commission to make. We have consistently made it throughout the years and ultimately are asking you all to please look through our application to determine if we have the capacity to pay back the debt that's coming.
And when did this project become public? You say we've been working on it for 9 years. When did?
I think 2016 is approximately the time frame that it became public. We put out a request through WDI, Wilmington Downtown Incorporated, for them to do a market study to determine some of the viability of that.
So it's been public and you've had 3 elections since then? 3 county commissioner elections. County commissioners elected on 2-year cycles.
22, 2018, yeah, I guess that's right.
Sets of them are 4-year cycles, but
every 2 years.
But every 2 years you're going to elect some.
That's correct.
And you still are getting unanimous votes from your county commission.
Yes, sir. And I think it's also important to point out that New Hanover County is an interesting place in North Carolina for a lot of reasons. We love it, but it's 1/3 Republican, 1/3 Democrat, 1/3 unaffiliated voters. And we have a broad range of folks who run for office, and we have bipartisan support for this project and have throughout all the time that we've considered it.
So it would be sufficient to say if the voters had a real problem with the project, they've had at least 3 opportunities to change the course by changing commissioners.
Sir, we all serve at the will of the voters of New Hanover County. If they decide that we're not doing a good job, they have every right to tell us that we're no longer allowed to. As does Ms. Hill have the opportunity to run for this office and become a policymaker in New Hanover County.
That's for me
Mr.
right now.
Yes, Mr. Burns.
Thank you. I have a question for staff on this. Is the application as presented by New Hanover County considered complete in the opinion of the Secretary of the Commission?
Mr. Burns, this is Chris Coudray, County Manager. I do not have an answer to that question, though I have asked that question.
That's why I'm asking it. Is it considered complete?
They've submitted all the paperwork we've asked for, yes.
Is it considered complete in the meaning of that term in the statute that authorizes our action as the local government commission? I'm not meaning to put you on the spot. I think it's an important question.
Understand. We believe they've submitted everything they need to submit for it to.
Okay. So there's nothing additional they could submit that would make it more ready for us to consider. And that's, I guess, one reason why it's on for discussion and consideration today. Is that fair to say?
be up to the commission members to decide if they need more information.
Understood. Thank you. I got
Mr. Burns, I wanted to interject that I'm the chair, staff is staff, and they
Understood.
are professional and courteous people. And if they ever need to say anything that is contrary to how I feel, or then they always have the latitude to do that.
I appreciate that, and I have never had any issue with the performance and professionalism of the staff you've assembled here. They're great. They've done a wonderful job, and I don't want those questions to be considered to be criticism at all. That wasn't what was intended, and I appreciate the way you work with your staff, or our staff. Let me direct a question to the commissioners, the New Hanover commissioners. This is a public-private partnership so that you can make sure that there's not half of a block that you want to redevelop that just sits fallow. Do I understand that correctly? Is that why you've decided to do it in the way you have?
Yes, sir, precisely.
Did you discuss in public hearings and public meetings the necessity, in your opinion, for a public-private partnership in order to accomplish that objective versus other ways of accomplishing the goal?
I can answer that question, and I will give Mr. Coudray, who has served as our county manager, an opportunity to clarify anything that I get wrong. I will note that my position on the New Hanover County Commission is fairly new to me. I've served since April. We had a sad death in our county, and I am filling a position that came open as a consequence of that death. Nevertheless, I've been actively involved in this project in some form or fashion in a volunteer capacity as a citizen since approximately 2016, 2017. And in fact, I helped play a role in putting public meetings together that brought folks together to discuss some of these concepts that were being contemplated by the commission. And furthermore, the commission at its meetings talked about various concepts that were to be considered, how we could pursue this project in this manner, that manner. I believe that some of these are outlined in the timeline that we gave y'all. I won't belabor the point, but the answer to your question is yes, sir, absolutely. We have on numerous occasions. It's very transparent in our discussions about the possible ways that we'd approach this project.
Thank you. And you took public votes on that. I mean, I used to be on the commission. You can't act without a public vote, right?
Yes, sir. Many public votes on this.
Okay. And as far as y'all are concerned, is this a proposal and a project that the county of New Hanover can afford based upon its tax base, and its bond ratings? And is this something that you can afford to complete?
Yes, sir. We have a AAA bond rating. We are confident in our ability to repay the debt that is contemplated in the application. In fact, this year lowered our property tax and have committed on the record that there would be no tax increase in connection with this project during one of our recent public hearings.
And I would assume that all of you sitting there, like I did, you'll have to face the voters if you run for re-election. Are you confident that you can defend this project when you run for re-election and you're confronted with hardworking and diligent citizens like Ms. Hill who oppose that project?
I commit, sir, to speak with Ms. Hill and any citizen of New Hanover County that wants to reach out to me about this project or any project. And I hate to say I'll speak for the rest of my commissioners, but I will speak for the rest of my commissioners. I know that they are very diligent about constituent contact. And we all recognize that the votes that we take are public votes, and we have to justify them whenever we make them. So, sir, yes, I commit to doing that.
I don't have any more questions at this time, Mr. Treasurer. Thank you.
Any other questions from those that are joining us virtually? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Spielbeck.
This is to the commissioner or his manager or other commissioners that may be there. Among the things that the local government commission considers is whether it believes the projects are prudent or expedient. In the opinion of the commissioners, I would suspect y'all know that and that you believe it's prudent and expedient. Could someone explain why you believe that?
Necessary or expedient?
Okay.
Well, to be technical, it's necessary or, yeah, I'm sorry, necessary or expedient. Yeah. But doesn't have to be both, but.
Chris, to vary the commentary up, want to take a stab at this one?
Yes, sir. And Mr. Burns, let me apologize to you. I hear the word staff and default to always believing the questions posed to me. So I'm sorry to get ahead and answer on behalf of Sharon. Sharon, please.
That's not a problem. Not a problem at all. I get it.
Yes, sir. The board has considered every way possible on this and has made the determination that because of its credit rating, because of its ability to meet its debt obligations, it is in the best interest of our community to issue debt. We have the good fortune of having a robust and healthy fund balance. We also have escrows that were set aside as part of our partnership with Novant. However, we are earning more interest on our escrows and our fund balance. And so if we were to issue or use the existing revenue on hand, we would actually end up losing money in the long term because our credit rating is so good. The last debt approval that this commission granted us this summer when we ended up selling our debt because of the AAA bond rating, and these are with limited obligation bonds, we sold at, I believe, 3.6 or 3.8%. We're earning more than 5% in just basic interest earnings without any aggressive investment decisions at this point on our escrow. So in every way, it is expedient and in the best interest of the taxpayers that we preserve our cash balance, use debt, and align the expenses with the revenues over the course of 20 years. Because we're going to enjoy the private revenues coming in from the taxable base that is added. We're also going to enjoy additional revenues because of the increased value in properties in near proximity and the commercial activity in general for retail sales and the like that absolutely will happen in the community because of this investment.
Anything else, Mr. Philbeck?
No, that explains why you believe it's expedient. The lady who's speaking against it believes it's not necessary. Why do you believe it's a necessary way to go for your library in Cape Fear?
Mr. Philbeck, it's our position that this is going to create an excellent economic development opportunity for the downtown. This is in a critical part of our downtown. These buildings, as we've already indicated, and I think the word was used by Mr. Burns earlier, fallow. These buildings are not doing as they are intended to do. And it is our belief that it is necessary for the continued growth and development of downtown Wilmington and New Hanover County at large that we make this investment into our library museum, but also that by virtue of this public-private partnership, we are making that $30 million plus investment into that other portion of the block. So it's our belief that this is critical and necessary to the continued economic success of New Hanover County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
We have one more question.
Yes, sure.
What, if any, impact will voting on this in October have on you?
I think that it's critical for this matter to be voted on in October because ultimately we do have some time limitations. We have some favorable bids. I'll note that we put this out to bid and got 141 competitive bids to keep the pricing low, actually got it lower from the first time that we voted on it after we put it out to competitive bid. And ultimately, if we are not able to utilize those deadlines, those timeframes, we're not going to be able to get on the schedule of these various contractors that we put this out to bid for. So it's necessary for us to move forward with this.
But I think the treasurer is committed to it being on the October agenda. Is that correct, Mr. Treasurer?
Voting up, voting down, either way.
All right. So my next question then is, did I ask for just one question?
Secretary, I think you can.
Money.
Yeah, but I ain't got this money. This ain't my money. Well, partially is.
You're the only one with subpoena power in this group, as far as I know.
Ms. Hill talked about, and obviously you're reducing the library. We know that the library is my librarian in North Carolina, since you say the library is at your desk. We know that. But libraries have various other services
Yes.
that they offer. And so have you considered and had discussions how you were going to accommodate so that the library can be a full service library as the one in Durham is for its community?
Excellent question, sir. Yes, deeply considered this, and we are very proud of the proposal that we have put together. The library museum concept is going to be excellent for all of the members of our community, children, adults, going to be event space that's available. One of the things that I'll note is that we have a couple of really great libraries in New Hanover County. It's not the one in downtown. So the people who live in downtown, unfortunately, are not beneficiaries of some of these great libraries that we otherwise have available in the community. This project helps to bridge that gap. And I'll also note, sir, to the extent that you're curious about any specific questions, we actually have the director of both our library and our museum in the room today. They'd be happy to shed any light on the deep work that they've done over the course of any number of years to get this into a position that's going to be dynamite for everybody.
The conversations with Ms. Hill.
It is my understanding that Ms. Hill has spoken with any number of members of our staff, and we have always been wide open to discuss Ms. Hill's concerns, as well as the other folks that are in our community. Ms. Hill is one of our constituents, and we take that very seriously. Everyone who has questions gets an answer in New Hanover.
You have one, Mrs. Hill had a different answer to the secretary for this question.
No, I have not talked to either of the directors of either the museum or the library. Also, the last engineering report that I've seen was given me by of the museum, or I'm sorry, of the library, was given to me by former Commissioner Pate and Zappel, which was in 1978. So I've asked for an engineering report, and the last report was the 1978 report, is my understanding, that had us purchase Bell Building in the first place. And I've toured the basement of the main library, and it not only is as dry as a bone, but it is full of cardboard boxes with cardboard, with paper historical documents in it. There is a sump pump area, and there was about this much water in it, and it was about this high. And I spoke to one of the staff who said that library has not flooded in the last 3 or 4 years. During Florence, which is one of the worst floods, it wasn't high, but it lasted forever. The library was almost not impacted. So to say that the library should be knocked down because it's not safe or not strong is not true. This library is the only library that serves all of New Hanover County, from the Castle Hayne to the Cape Fear River. The rest of the libraries, the new libraries, are all in upscale areas of the county. It's the only pedestrian-friendly library we have, and it's also, we have the free trolley that gets there. So by making this, there's no way, although I don't know how you plan to do it, there's no way you can put 95,000 or 90,000 square foot components that are in the Durham library, this 33% library.
Mr. Treasurer,
Ms. Hill, go ahead.
the library, it's being framed as though it is a 90,000 square foot facility open public. In fact, it is not. It's a 4-story building. The bottom floor is a basement. The 3rd floor is administrative space. The combined operational space that is the library is approximately 30,000 square feet. This proposal actually net increases the square footage of programmable, usable space for library patrons to north of 40,000 square feet. So the size of the building is not what is at issue. The actual delivery of service will be done in more footprint than what is available to our community today. I would argue it is an expansion of library square footage that is usable, and certainly the services that are being offered in our downtown facility.
I just have a couple of questions. Mr. Butler, you have anything?
Go on.
Sorry.
First of all, I want to set the record straight as the treasurer did. I have never had any problems with the city of Wilmington or New Hanover County having a new library or a new museum. That's a policy decision for you. You represent the people. That is your decision. So I want that to be perfectly clear that I have never taken a position in opposition to New Hanover County having a new library or a museum. I do want to ask a couple of questions and make an option. From the sale of the hospital, the figure that I'm reporting that you have in a separate fund is approximately $300 million. Is that correct or not?
Yes, sir.
Is that fund managed by you, or is it managed by the local government commission, or is it managed by a private firm?
It is managed by our staff, consistent with the investment policies of the state of North Carolina as administered by the local government commission staff. We manage those dollars on a daily basis ourselves.
All right. Next of all, why, with the city of Wilmington getting ready to sell a bank building, not much further than the width of this room, across from the land that you want to sell, taking sealed bids, why would you have a problem not taking, so I'm not talking about upset bids. I understand. Why would you have a problem with taking sealed bids as the city of Wilmington is in the process of taking right now for property they're going to sell?
Mr. Butler, I don't know that in fact sealed bid versus upset bid would generate more value per square foot. And I heard the city manager make a similar argument, I believe, before this commission once previously. Ultimately, the framework of this proposed development is that the development side will pay not less than $3.5 million for that half a block. There will be appraisals after the completion of the new library and the museum. What is the appraised value then? And that becomes the purchase price. I use as an illustration, and they're apples and oranges, but 2 blocks away, a vacant lot sold in the last 120 days for $6.5 million that had a building that was taken down. The floor of this is not less than 3.5. What the market says the property is worth at the point that we occupy the new buildings is in fact what the developer has committed to pay. So when that day comes, the developer and the county will enter into a partnership and into a purchase agreement where they're paying the appraised value to appraisers, the appraised value of that parcel.
I've read all that, county manager. I just, in one way, it may end up the developers paying more than it would pay if you did seal bids.
We have a guarantee of not less than $3.5 million today.
And if the seal bids came in at $5.5 million, I would like to bring to your attention that the state auditor right now has just conducted an audit of Farmville and has a finding that the city manager and the city council sold property below the value that it was worth. And therefore, the citizens of Farmville were deprived of revenue. And that audit is public. You can take a look at it.
Mr. Butler, I appreciate that, but our development agreement requires to be sold at appraised value.
Just let him finish
that. I just want, that is an audit right now that has been sent to us. My final question is, why are you even here? Why didn't you take your own money and do this and not be bothered with it? And do with it as you see, under your schedule as you see. Name a room after Novant or name the building after Novant and do as you see fit. And not even have to be bothered with any of this. Why?
Yes, sir.
I mean, is that much savings to have to go through all of this?
I'd like to answer both that question and your prior question in the same way, and I'm actually going to use some of your prior words. Same as why you said you didn't oppose the library and museum, because it was a policy decision of New Hanover County. Because these items were policy decisions that New Hanover County commissioners made. They considered these points that you have suggested and elected to move forward because state law says that we can move forward with the public-private partnership in the way that we have. And furthermore, as County Manager Coudray explained previously, we ran an analysis and determined that it cost us more to spend our cash reserve than to take on this debt service. So because we follow the law in North Carolina and we want debt service to be issued to us, we came to the LGC. We came to y'all and we said, we've made a policy decision that we want to fund this project in this manner. Will you please confirm that our financials are in order, that we have the ability to pay this back and allow the application that has been submitted to you all? So those are the answers to the question, sir. We made policy decisions at New Hanover County Commission level to pursue it in this manner. We believe that we're allowed to do under state law. We've been transparent in all of our dealings with both our public, the folks that we represent, as well as LGC, and we're asking for this just to be handled in the normal course. It's a bit interesting to me that I'll answer all the questions that you want me to answer, but whenever we're talking about what is normally the case here, and yes, you'll have a wide berth to go and explore anything you like, but as you indicated, you're not policymakers in New Hanover County. So I'm asking you, sir, to recognize that if the paperwork is in order at the October meeting, we would like for you to allow us to take on the debt service that we have made a policy decision on.
I heard what you said. I just want to point out, when I'm looking at your debt schedule here, and so the record will show, it looks to me like the number I'm looking at is about like $52 million. And the interest would run about $25 million that we pay. And if you took the amount of money that you're going to pay in principal and interest for the first 10 years and applied it back to your hospital fund, you'd be made whole and the interest would have never been charged. And I understand it is your policy decision. It's our responsibility to take a look at this.
I understand, sir. We're desirous of maintaining our corpus in the manner that it is now so that we can continue to earn interest on it. And we think that that's a better policy decision for us than doing as we have done, or rather we think it's a better policy decision for us to come to you as we have done and ask for the debt service rather than to go into those funds. We have considered it though, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just a couple
Mr.
quick
Treasurer,
questions. Yeah, I was just going to ask a couple of quick questions and move on, but go ahead, Mr. Burns.
I just have a quick question about the library services in New Hanover. Are there other branch libraries other than this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wasn't sure whether you'd had one centralized library. When I took office in Wake County in early 2015, it was the 6th largest circulation public library in the country, but had no centralized library. So it is doable to have a really vibrant and active library without having one centralized, downtown public library. So I just want to, I guess that's not really a question, but thank you for answering the question that you have more than one branch. That's important information to me. Thank you.
Just a couple of quick questions.
Yes, sir.
If you just took what Mr. Burns said, and I could not have anticipated what he just said, and just decided that you didn't want to have a downtown central library at all, what do you think the value of this property is? Just put it on the market, like is happening with buildings all around Project Grace.
What, the entire block?
Yeah.
I have no reference. I could go back to our tax staff.
No.
I have no idea what the lot without public purposes on it might generate. What I know is that the developer is willing to pay not less than $3.5 million if he bought it today for half of a block.
How did you come up? How did that number come up? How did you come to 3.5 million?
Got a previous appraisal during the first project race iteration that appraised the property at $2.6 million. As in negotiation with the developer, they said we'll do even better than that. We will set a floor of $3.5 million, understanding we'll have these two appraisal process. We'll pay the higher of the two appraisals as long as they're within 5% of each other.
But except for demolition, if you extrapolate what you just said, then at least you think you might know what the value of this lot is, right? If 3.5 million is worth half, then
It's worth pointing out, sir, that we do have a parking deck that it would not be a policy preference of the commission to sell our parking deck to someone else. Additionally, I guess that you could do rough back of the envelope math for the other portion, but it's our desire to develop the block.
and in your application,
Yes.
You mentioned that the $2.5 million that the county's already spent with the Zimmer family for their development, architectural plans, whatever you want to call it, that those are not going to be used?
Those are being used, yes, sir. The county agreed to purchase those plans because it believed in the vision that Zimmer and the development team brought forward. There has been some value engineering done by the general contractor, our staff, and the design team, but no change to the designs themselves. The vision that the county bought is the vision that will be constructed.
So anyone who would say that the plans that you bought from the Zimmer Corporation are not being used in Project Grace 2.0 would be inaccurate.
That would be my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. That statement is not accurate. We have used those plans and we have made modifications to those plans in the form of value engineering, but those plans are essentially what we are using today.
And last question for me, originally in the budget, those plans were budgeted at 800,000.
In perhaps with the original agreement
in public documents.
In the original agreement from 2019 or 20, that is possible. I don't have recall. What I do know is we went through a negotiation with the development team with the changes that we wanted in the design process, adding in value that ultimately led to the purchase price that the county agreed to in the modified development. And those prices have not changed since that development agreement was updated.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm going to give Ms. Hill one final moment. This Project Grace 1.0 came before us within the last year. It was controversial then. I had a conversation with the previous chair, and I spoke to her this morning just to make sure that I understood what she had told me about a year ago, because I'm actually known for listening and I have a great memory about what people tell me. And she said in that conversation, well, just put on the agenda, just vote it, just vote it. I don't care. She was the current chair of the county commission at that time. And because I had a previous good working relationship with the former chairman and have known her for a long period of time, because I do listen, and I do have a good memory, I called her back almost immediately about a year ago, and I said, I don't like how that tailed off, how that conversation tailed off. And I said, you just gave me the impression that you don't care. Just put it on the agenda and vote it down. She said, that's correct. I don't care. And I said, you've put so much effort into this thing called Project Grace, and it's been going on for such a long period of time. And she said, well, I'm just not too happy with the Zimmer folks, and I've got someone else in mind to do this with. And I didn't admonish her on that. I just said, I just don't think that's the way things are supposed to be done. But I spoke to her again today and just confirmed that my hearing is still good and my memory is still good. And so I know that we got a lot of very, really powerful people here today. And I also want you to know that it doesn't matter how thin you slice a piece of paper, it still has two. And sometimes really, really powerful people don't think there's two sides to every story, but there is. So I will give Ms. Hill opportunity to make just a brief closing remark.
Well, thank you for this comments. First of all, I want to respond to Chris about the current museum or library only being used a third of space. And that's probably true because the county has pretty much ignored the museum or the library the whole time. The fact that it's not being used is just because the county has not been forward thinking enough to use that space. Second of all, it's an academic exercise to discuss how much that block will be worth, because when the city or the county bought the Belk building, the city of Wilmington paid 60% of the purchase price, which was $500,000, and the city paid $300,000 with the understanding that there will be a library downtown within a few blocks. Unfortunately, not that block, but there has to be a library downtown Wilmington within a few blocks. So unless they find another building to put a library in, they have to keep that library on that block. So sometimes the devil's in the details, and sometimes people can be honest, but sometimes things can get lost. Thank you.
Very briefly,
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank you and the other members of the LGC for the opportunity to have this discussion. It is critical to us that we have a transparent process. If there are other matters that any member of the commission needs to bring to our attention, we would ask you to please do so that we can timely respond prior to the October meeting. We hope that we will have the opportunity to have, and as you said, sir, up or down vote at the October meeting. It's important in North Carolina and the United States that insinuations don't make the stuff of our work. We are ultimately asking a very simple proposition. Would you please approve this debt application that we're making to you? The other matters, I believe, are extraneous, and I hope that we can stay purpose-driven matter that's actually before the LGC.
Thank you. And I promise this is the last thing, but since you say something that triggers something in my mind, we're dealing with this with another major piece of property in Raleigh. It has nothing to do with y'all. Is there anything in the deed based on the way the Belk building was acquired and turned into a library that's going to result in anything having to do with that reverting back to the city?
No, sir. No, sir.
Thought that was the answer on another major thing in Raleigh, but it didn't come out quite that way when somebody started looking at the details. So
we're very confident in the ability of our.
See what I'm saying? See what I'm. Somebody found something about a very large building in this town that they started looking back and they realized that 2/3 of that possibly belonged to somebody else or who funded it. So when this was brought up, I just felt like I needed to flush that out. All right. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for being here. I'm sure that there are a lot of people in Watauga County who come to Wilmington and spend a lot of money every year. So I'm sure they're more than happy to have you back in Watauga County.
I'm originally from Burke County, so I'll be able to stop and see my mom and dad on the way. I'm looking forward to it.
So much. Members, I think we'll just roll on through if that's no objection. All right.
Thank you all.
I need to recognize Congressman McIntyre, so.
Mike,
Thank you. Good to see you.
it's nice to see you again.
Sir, good to be with you.
Okay. Mr. McIntyre, smile once.
Nice.
I saw it. Hiding in the back.
That was interesting.
Thank you for listening.
Mr. Treasurer, up to attachment E in our agenda, which is updates and actions related to units under LGC financial control.
Thanks, Cindy. One take about a 5-minute break. 5-minute break.
We are taking a 5-minute break. We're going to mute the microphones in the room while folks move around.
Can y'all still hear me?
I can hear you, Mr. Burns. I don't know if they can or not.
I regret that for you, Mike. I was just wondering, I just have a question. How long do you think we have left in terms of items on the agenda? I'm here at a conference and eventually have to get to some of the stuff I paid to attend, but just kind of wondering.
Well, there's several people tonight that want this to go to 8 o'clock.
You trying to hold me hostage, Mr. Treasurer?
But those people aren't in this room, but they're somewhere else tonight at 7.
Let me say, Mr. Burns, I don't have not one damn question.
I got you. All right, thank you.
It's about 40 minutes, right?
Okay, thank you. That works.
How long are the Turnpike and Electricity's presentations, do we know?
Cities are not presenting. Turnpike is still here?
David walked out to the restroom, maybe 10, 15 minutes.
All right. Who's next?
So, yes, the electricities, you have the member information in your packets, but they will not be here.
Yeah. Electricities are not presenting.
Okay.
Because I made the decision to put New Hanover on the agenda.
Just a reminder, we are still live and broadcasting. While we take a brief break.
In other words, Mr. Burns, be careful what you say.
I never do that, Mike. Everybody knows that.
Okay, members, we are going to pick up at attachment E, updates and actions related to units under LGC financial control, and Kendra Boyle will be presenting.
Okay, I just want to keep this brief and explain the resolutions that we vote on. We have, we need votes for each of the units that we have control over. For the town of Eureka, we have 5 resolutions, the first of which is to adopt the schedule of sewer charges. You'll see in that resolution that it has a flat fee of $45, and then we've changed the usage rate per 1,000 gallons. It has 5% to $13.56. That is that one resolution. The other resolution would be one that's needed to apply for funding. Then we have a resolution that is regarding the viability of the wastewater system, and then 2 resolutions acknowledging that there are merger regionalization feasibility studies that are happening, are going to be conducted by the town of Goldsboro and by the town of Fremont, and require Eureka's participation in those studies.
Commission members, are we taking these as all units as a single vote, or is there a desire to take each unit's votes individually?
I move we take them all as a single vote.
I will second that.
Okay. Well, I'll go on to Cliffside Sanitary District. What we need a vote on for that is to change the finance officer, that unit of local government, and that would be changing it from our coach team manager of David Irwin to our assistant director of fiscal management, Eric Faust. In Kingstown, we need a resolution to apply for DEQ funding, and also they have an MRF study that's being conducted by Cleveland County Board, and that will require Kingstown's participation, and so that's the reason that we need that resolution passed. And then in Spring Lake, we have 2 items that need to be voted on. One is a budget ordinance, and that budget ordinance amendment is to allow us to appropriate fund balance for $120,000, the roof of the town hall, and then the other is for $35,000 to pay North Carolina League of Municipalities dues. And then the last resolution that we need voted on there is to change the finance officer from David Irwin to myself at Spring Lake. So that's it in a nutshell, what we have going on with those units.
Mr. Treasurer, the members indicated that they were accepted a single vote on all
Okay,
the.
all right, go ahead, next.
That's it.
That's it.
We need to move to a vote on those matters.
Do I hear a motion to take staff's recommendation?
So moved.
Second. Do I hear a second?
Second, Phil.
All right, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
We're doing all of these together, is that the 5 Eureka? So for Eureka, Cliffside Sanitary District, Kingstown, and all of these resolutions explained by Kendra. And you have a fill back. So Secretary Marshall. I will come back to you. Burns.
Aye.
Mr. Butler.
Aye.
Falwell.
Aye.
Secretary Marshall. Aye. Thank you.
Next.
Mr. Treasurer, attachment F is a resolution for the commission related to guidelines, establishing guidelines for successful appeal for withholding sales tax under new authority granted to the commission under session law 2023-59. In those changes to our statutes, it allows the LGC to direct the withholding of sales tax distributions for units that have not submitted an audit report within 1 year of its fiscal year end. It also requires that the commission establish guidelines by which a unit may make a successful appeal to the commission with regard to the LGC's action in that regard. We have, staff is proposing establishing a guideline of essentially that the outstanding audit is the only audit outstanding for that unit. So essentially, if county, and just to be clear, this legislation only applies to counties and municipalities. So if a county or municipality were to receive a notice as required under this law from the LGC at the 9-month mark within fiscal year end that they hadn't submitted their audit, they would be able to successfully appeal that action by the commission withholding that sales tax if that were the only audit outstanding at that time. So we believe that would allow the commission to implement the law for just those units that were that repeatedly missed those audits and allow the others to come and before the commission and provide the reasons that their audits are late. Again, this doesn't imply that any units are automatically would have their sales tax withheld. This is just a basis for a successful appeal. If a unit had more than one audit out, they would still come before the commission and explain their circumstances and situation, and the commission could decide whether or not at that point to withhold the sales tax. So
is that what 2 through 8 is about?
correct. So we're saying that if the commission, if the county or municipality receives a notice and says this is the only audit we have outstanding, this is essentially saying that that is the basis of a successful appeal, and the commission would not move to withhold their sales tax distribution. If they don't meet that threshold, or if they have more than one audit out, they would come before you to explain the situation, and you can make the determination at that point whether or not to grant them an appeal.
I'm not, in all honesty, the lawyer in me, I'm not sure that is totally clear. That's what I gathered, but I don't know that what we have before us exactly says that.
Okay.
And next, in part of this, and I'm maybe getting ahead, part of this starts talking about a portion of sales tax being withheld, which is a correct statement. And then part of it just sort of says sales tax withheld.
That's the clarification that can be made. It's under the statute, a portion would be withheld up to a maximum, up to a certain amount per month until that 150% of the cost of the last year. So that's definitely a clarification.
1/12 of their budget. Their declared budget, well, 5% of 1/12 of their budget is what it is. But I'm just saying that's a portion of it. And so when I get to, I think, 4, it doesn't carry that theme on.
We can certainly make that clarification. That is the portion.
And so I would ask that are we adopting these today?
You don't have to, Secretary Penny. Actually, even if adopted, they wouldn't be effective until January 1st.
I would just ask that you talk to Jackie in my office. She's the one that's going to have to administer. She's the one that's going to end up calculating the things and working. And so I just make sure that we're all on the same page.
Thank you. We'll certainly do that.
Anything else?
Mr. Treasurer, I have a question. I have a quick question about paragraph 2, if you don't mind.
Yes.
I'm like Mr. Penny, the lawyer in me is struggling with paragraph 2. That the commission, you resolve that the commission shall determine that the county or municipality has provided sufficient evidence that the failure to provide a copy of their annual audit report is due to circumstances within the guideline established by the commission. And here's the part I have trouble with: if the secretary confirms the basis for the appeal. As that's worded, and I'm not sure this is the intent, it would seem I could argue, I can argue lots of things, but it seems like we would only be in a position to determine whether there's sufficient evidence if the secretary confirms the basis for the appeal. And I'm not sure that's what you intend, that wording, and I wonder if it might be clarified a bit.
I didn't know.
I'm not sure what that
by the commission were either.
Right. So the statute and the wording in a good part of that actually reflects the requirement of the statute with regards to a bid for a successful appeal. And Mr. Burns, I think the intent of confirming the basis for the appeal was just essentially for staff to provide to the commission that if a county or municipality said that this was their only outstanding audit, that staff confirmed that that was the only outstanding audit. But we can certainly work on the wording of that.
Yeah, I appreciate that explanation. That makes a lot of sense. I would think maybe we could tweak that language so that it says that more clearly. I don't know. Yeah, I just see lots of room for mischief later on if that's not clarified.
Well, and when you get to 3, it says, and we can appeal on other criteria, based on other criteria and evidence. I don't have a problem with that, but that just sort of open the, and if this is what we intend, we want to open the door and have other good calls. I mean, obviously, if that's what is the intent, then I'm fine with it. Because obviously we have cities that have been pretty demolished by storms and their audits are going to be late. And that may be a good cause shown. And if they were a year behind, if they were a little behind before, then they get flooded, they're 2 years, they're easily 2 years behind, and they've got good cause, and now we're withholding. It can't be. I calculated what the amount would be on Spring Lake, and it's a decent sum of money.
You mind sharing what that number was?
I think it was like, second. It ended up being like $34,000 out of their pot for that month.
For the month?
For the month, yes. That wouldn't have, assuming Spring Lake's audit would be what, $150,000, $200,000?
We can check.
That much.
Because we have to hold it until we reach the amount that Sharon tells us is 150%. So if it's a $150,000 audit, it'd be 150% of that. So whatever 100 plus 150 plus 75.
And it's $34,000 a month. It'd be nearly a year we'd hold it up.
8, 9 months, yeah.
Yeah.
Secretary Marshall.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not just very familiar with this particular statute. The amount is not discretionary. It's whether it's going to be withheld that's discretionary, right? Because it keeps talking about a portion of. And when we talk about discretion, I thought, is that a slight?
No, that part is, as Secretary Penny indicated, it's 5% of 1/12 until the 150% is reached, or until the audit is submitted. And I apologize, I sort of jumped into this without a little bit of background, but the intent here and what staff is recommending is that when looking at last year's numbers, again, if we had applied this last year, just as a basis for understanding how we would have implemented this, the number of notices that would have had to go out under the statute, again, that would be those counties and municipalities that hadn't submitted an audit report, by April 1st, would have been 104 notices. And so in an effort to streamline for the commission and help identify which ones were received that because they were only late for this year versus there might have been some recurring issues, we suggest this guideline that essentially, again, that a county or municipality, if they were behind by only 1 year, that they could claim that as a successful appeal, essentially. And then the others, to Secretary Penny's point, would come in on a case-by-case basis and have the ability to discuss with the commission their issues.
If we were to start this process and the goal is to have 150% of, and they, in 2 or 3 months, do they then get their, if they get their audit in and take care of it, do they then get their back taxes?
Yes.
No.
And there's obviously a little bit of a timing issue with Secretary Penny's agency, but there's.
Right. We don't have to withhold the money. They notify us and we've got 45 days to withhold it.
Any other questions? You need to vote on that?
No, we've been given direction by Mr. Burns and Secretary Penny to make some changes, and we'll bring this back next month.
Next.
And please, Jackie McCoy.
Yeah.
Call Jackie, her people will.
All right, the next item is attachment G. And this is a discussion of the proposed use of the authority given to the commission under session law 2021-191. Just a quick summary of that law. This is the first time we're implementing this. But whenever the state auditor issues an investigative report on a unit of government that reports to the commission, we can, at our discretion, depending on the findings in the audit, make a determination that unit of government needs to change auditors. And we have to provide a list, if you will, of acceptable auditors for them to choose from. We don't actually make the choice of the auditor that's going to do their audit. So we do provide them a population to choose from. What I'm asking of the commission today is in order to eliminate as much accusation, if you will, of favoritism or what have you, the selection of those auditors, we want to do an RFP process to select the pool of auditors to recommend for Elizabethtown and Farmington. They both recently had investigative reports issued, some fairly significant findings in both of those investigations. They both have used the same auditors for a number.
And this is what we do every time. This is what we will do or have done.
This is the first time we're using this authority because we haven't had an audit.
This is what we will do from now on.
If the findings are of a nature that we feel like that the local auditor should have discovered.
It's the audit that state auditor issued. Does it cast blame on the auditor? So I guess what I want to know is, then are we casting blame on them? I mean, because I'm a little uncomfortable doing that just because I'm just a little uncomfortable. Not that I'm disagreeing with you or any, I'm just uncomfortable casting blame on auditor. Maybe I'm just not prepared to cast that blame unless I know exactly why I should be blaming the auditor.
I understand what you're saying. We're not directly saying the auditor should have done this or done that, but it's a situation where they've had the same auditor for a number of years. And the findings are of such a nature that I would have expected them to come up at some point during that time.
Well, I'm not, if we had a criteria for saying that. I'm not disagreeing with you with what led you to the conclusion that and the recommendation. I'm just more comfortable if I had some standard to base it on, so that it isn't me making a subjective, what appears now to be a subjective decision, even though I know it isn't. If I had a standard to base it, I would be a lot more comfortable there.
Well, we can bring this one back again next month too.
I mean, I could be just way out on left field on this one, but I understand what you're saying. Let me ask you this, is this something that this has to be done today?
No, that it needs to be done sometime in the next couple of months, because the local governments will be signing their contracts for their audits next year.
Right. And so you could theoretically give us the standard by which you are going to make this recommendation to us, which can actually, you pretty much said it here. And if you give us that standard, at that point, we can then say they checked off these boxes. Okay. This is where we're going.
Sharon, so this is going to be included in their contracts. The audit firm's contracts with the municipality, that if they don't perform, they realize that this clock could start ticking on them.
No, we hadn't planned on changing any audit contract. So
This only occurs in the unusual circumstance where you have a state audit that probably reflects errors that should have been caught in prior audits that weren't caught. You all can define it, but I'm just saying, give me a standard.
Okay. This is Cindy. I can just read you the language of the statute. So if you want to just do that.
Can you?
Yeah. And this is Session Law 2021-191. Notwithstanding the requirement that the auditor is selected by and reports directly to the governing board, the commission, that's you, may require the governing board of that local government that has been the subject of an investigative audit with findings by the state auditor. So that's may require the governing board to select a CPA to conduct the annual audit from a list of 3 CPAs provided by the LGC. The commission may instruct the secretary to issue a request for proposals.
And I agree with everything. I'm just saying, when do I use the may? When does that may become we're going to make you get a, because if it's may, then I may do it and I may not do it. Those are words of discretion. I just need to know when I'm going to use mine.
We probably should run these by him before we bring them to the agenda.
Now, even with me, when my staff comes to, I say, no, you don't want to give me unfettered discretion.
No, I say it as a comment.
That's not something. Actually, it's probably unconstitutional to give me unfettered discretion. And you don't want to give anyone unfettered discretion, because though you may know the person who's making the decision today, you may not know the person who's making the decision tomorrow.
So we'll table this for now and bring back something next month.
Right, and again, you've already said, when you gave me the reasons why, you gave me the reasons that there needs to be an audit. You just need to put them in.
That's writing.
Yeah.
Attachment H, does anybody need more information about the resolution? Okay. You have the resolution before you, which we've worked on since the last meeting. We have representatives who, I guess, are thumbs up being what we're doing here. Do I hear a motion to accept? Do I
Move
hear a
approval,
motion?
Burns.
Certify the resolution on the NCCMT as a certified mutual fund. All right. Okay. Motion being made. Second.
I'll second that.
Second, please.
Any further discussion? Here, none, clerk will call the roll.
All right, for the benefit of anyone listening, attachment H is a resolution to certify the North Carolina Capital Management Trust Government Portfolio as a certified mutual fund for the time period stated therein. I got Burns and Butler. Is the motion and second? All right. Secretary Marshall. Aye. Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck.
Aye.
Commissioner Falwell.
Aye.
That's everything. Okay, thanks.
Now we're here to have our turnpike attachment on.
So we have David Roy, the CFO of the Turnpike Authority, and David Miller, the financial advisor. A copy of the presentation in your packet. It's a quick update on Fleet 540 Phase 2, and we are looking to come back for approval in November, David.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Again, my name is David Roy. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of the Turnpike Authority. This has already been a full agenda, so I'll try and move quickly through these slides. Certainly, if there are any questions, don't hesitate to stop.
Is there a seat on the turnpike?
The Executive Director is J.J. Eden, sir.
Jay, who?
J.J. Eden.
Have they ever been? That girl or man or woman?
A gentleman, and I'm not sure if he's ever attended in person. It's been a number of years since we've been at this point. I believe he's been in that position 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Certainly the previous Executive Director, Bo Memory,
I'm sure.
became before you. So I don't know who's got control of the slides, but maybe if you don't mind advancing, I think most folks are one more form. Most folks are familiar with 540. It is the outer loop around the greater Raleigh area that you can see on the map on your screen. The portion there in green is currently open to traffic. It comprises I-540 there to the north, as well as NC 540 to the west. That's the first tolled segment that opened back in 2013. The portion in blue in southern Wake County is what we've termed Complete 540 Phase 1. That's currently under construction, scheduled for completion next year. And the piece we are talking about today is that piece in eastern Wake County, termed Link, but it is Complete 540 Phase 2 that will complete the loop around the greater Raleigh area. So today, again, we're here to talk about the Phase 2 project and provide you an update on that project as it advances to construction. And as Sharon mentioned, back before you in November to seek approval. Next slide, please.
So the dark blue, those of us from the east that come to Raleigh on 40, that's going to finally get us on the bypass, get around the city.
So the light blue section that is currently under construction, if you don't mind. The light blue section that is currently under construction will actually create a bypass around Raleigh to the south. That terminus is at the 4070 interchange, so that will create the bypass that I think you're referencing. The section to the north, the one we're talking about today, will create a northern bypass as well.
I've seen him drive on the blue already. No, it's not complete. You were looking for a white vehicle, it was his.
The section under construction right now is scheduled for completion sometime in late spring, early summer.
How long will it take to do the dark?
2028 is when our
5 years.
is scheduled. And this next slide will actually speak to that in a little more detail. So where we are today with the project, it has been broken into 2 construction contracts consistent with the Phase 1 project. That was actually broken into 3 projects because it's a little bigger. The R2829 project is priced about 60% of the overall length of the Phase 2, Complete 540 Phase 2 project. 2829A, about 40% of the overall project. You can see the procurement schedule for both 2829A and B on the screen there. For the B project, since that is a little larger, that advanced first or has advanced first. What we are trying to do is align substantial completion or open to traffic for both of those projects at the same time. So B has gone first. We actually opened price proposals on August 29th and are moving to award that construction contract in the next few weeks and issue a limited notice to proceed. R2829A is a few months behind that. Technical proposals will be due here in a few weeks, followed by price proposals. Similarly, we anticipate opening price proposals on October 17th for that project. You can see on the right side of your screen a timeline for the overall Complete 540 Phase 2 project. That record of decision was received, environmental decision back in 2018. It was received in conjunction with the Phase 1 project. Again, our letting for the B and the A projects are August and October respectively. And then as we just discussed, we anticipate opening the Phase 2 project sometime in 2028.
Who audits this for you? How is it audited and accounted for?
So Terry Becker is currently the Turnpike Authority. Obviously, we have Financial Advisors Council that works for us.
Who reviews the audit? I mean, who do you turn it over to?
It's a public document. The Turnpike Authority has an autonomous board that is focused on debt issuance, setting.
Does the audit come to the local government commission?
I believe it's provided.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So as you may be aware, again, consistent with the Complete 540 Phase 1 project, the department advanced $100 million of its commitment to this project to help with early long lead time items to get those activities underway, acquire critical right-of-way parcels, et cetera, essentially to help de-risk and accelerate completion of the project. This provides just a brief update on those activities. As of middle of August, about $16 million out of that $100 million had been spent. There are 2 right-of-way parcels that I think are very close to being settled, which will add to that total. And of course, once limited notice to proceed is awarded or is issued for the B project, we start paying mobilization, et cetera. That's when you'll see some more of those funds spent. At this point, we don't anticipate coming anywhere close to touching the full authorized $100 million. But again, the intent of that is really to help with critical right-of-way parcels. There are certain parcels that need access early in the project, so being able to go ahead and acquire those. Utility relocation, depending on the utility, can take significant time. Relocations, for example, on this project, there was an FAA tower coordinating with FAA take a number of years in some instances. So going ahead and getting that out of the way has allowed this project to really advance and kind of de-risk the schedule. And again, repayment to the department of those advanced funds will occur immediately following that. Next slide, please. Security structure. This is really a mirror image of the Phase 1 project. Calls for the issuance of additional senior lien toll revenue bonds as well as a TIFIA loan. Those bonds and the TIFIA loan are secured by gross toll revenues, a small portion of excess state appropriated revenues, and of course interest earnings. And again, similar to all projects that the authority has pursued, there is a commitment in place from NCDOT allowing us to offer that gross revenue pledge, whereby should revenues not be sufficient to cover operations and maintenance, the department would step in to cover operations and maintenance on the projects, on the facilities to be paid once revenues are available. And then similarly, a construction completion guarantee. Should construction costs come in above anticipated costs, the department would step in and ensure completion of the project. Next slide, please. Again, very similar structure to the Complete 540 Phase 1. The current plan of finance contemplates about a $460 million TIFIA loan, $435 million toll revenue bonds to be issued, a $400 million department contribution currently contemplated in the form of Garvey's and state match that is in the STIP, and then a reallocation of about $29 million in Phase 1 dollars that were anticipated for debt service reserve funds instead of surety is contemplated to be purchased for that debt service reserve fund. Dollars available for
construction. Not really fast, but certainly if there are questions, feel free to stop me. Sources and uses, obviously the vast majority of proceeds to be used towards construction. Construction costs here include construction costs as well as right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, et cetera. Currently contemplated about 1.25 billion in total. Obviously, cost of issuance, capitalized interest, the bulk of the remainder. And again, the sources of those fundings, those funds being debt issuance in the form of toll revenue bonds and a TIFIA loan, as well as the $400 million in state funds.
I have a question. On numbers these big, how can you have such small contingent? Am I reading that $4,874?
That's just to make the math work on the sources and uses. There are significant contingencies within the plan of finance.
All right, I got it.
Yes, sir. That's completely fair.
You made him happy, you made us unhappy. That's just a number used to make it work. I'm sorry, I was just a CPA joke.
Yeah, with the, typically bonds are issued in obviously $5,000 tranches, so under 5,000 to make the math.
How many economists that's within the tolerance level?
On $1.3 billion, that's all right. $4,800.
I'm Secretary of We're revenue, $1 million here, $1 million there.
It's $1 billion here, it's only $4,800.
But completely fair question. Obviously, within the construction cost estimate, there's a for various events. Should they?
Can we just fast forward and see if you have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we can. Obviously, coverage ratios are on the next slide, and as Sharon alluded to, financing currently contemplated to request approval by this commission at the November meeting and anticipate financial close towards the end.
As we're thinking about toll roads around the state, just to visualize this, the 540 project, got the Monroe bypass. What about the 485 stuff?
The 45 express lane projects.
That's all yours.
So with 485, the department funded that project.
Right.
So there's no debt associated with it.
Okay.
The Turnpike Authority will serve as the toll operations arm, essentially, but it is not funded through the.
And did I see it correctly that on 485, that the toll lanes are in the middle of the road?
The express lanes are on the inside. Yes,
No, I mean the middle. I mean, is there regular lanes here and regular lanes here?
So the cross section would be the general purpose lanes. There'll be a delineator, about 4 foot delineator separated.
Do we have non-toll people sandwiching the toll people? Yes or no?
No.
We don't.
So you have your general purpose lanes with one express lane in each direction, but then obviously there'll be a barrier between.
I know that, but there's no other general purpose lanes to the other side of it.
Absolutely, not in the same direction.
I thought that's what I saw when I was down the other day. Okay.
20 seconds. Are you involved to hear any conversation about a toll bridge over the Cape Fear River in Wilmington?
Yes, sir.
We should just stop there. So the answer is yes. All right.
But can I add just a second of context there? Can I add just a second of context that the department received an unsolicited proposal to deliver that as a P3. The department is currently working with the MPO to decide whether they want to move forward with that as a toll project. That's currently not a toll, has not been submitted to the department as a toll project.
The person that wanted to do a 3P, were they in this room earlier?
I do not know that. I don't know. The proposal that was received was an unsolicited proposal. It was not one that was solicited by the MPO or the department. So as of now, that is not a toll project. The MPO has not requested it to be a toll project. We are working through a process with the MPO to help them decide whether they want to request it to be a toll.
Generally speaking, can any vehicles use the roads that you talked to us about in this room?
There are limitations on the express lanes typically. Typically are not allowed in the express lane.
So a tractor trailer cannot use the express lane?
That's correct.
Because it's not enough weight bearing? you don't have the right weight bearing.
Too daggone big.
Typically, when you have one express lane, you're not going to add commercial vehicles, tractor trailers.
So no commercial vehicles can use toll roads.
In north, the current, only the express lanes I'm speaking of. So obviously the I-77 North Express lanes, 485 is contemplated to be similar. Obviously on the Monroe Expressway, the Triangle Expressway, that's completely different.
Any vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if somebody causes an accident on 485 and clogs up the entrance to the toll road, do you charge the person who caused the accident with all the tolls you didn't collect?
In that hypothetical scenario, I guess that would be
what's going to happen this afternoon.
Well, it's not open yet, but
I mean, but
yeah.
Do you subrogate?
We have certainly not done that on our facilities. I don't want to speak for the department how they would approach 485, but certainly the Turnpike Authority has not done that on it.
Okay.
Insurance rates would go up tremendously.
I know it's happening then. So when the I-77 North toll, when it's turned back over, is it turned back over to y'all or to the DOT?
It's a 50-year lease term. Statutorily, once the debt is repaid, the tolls have to come off. So I would suspect
it just comes off.
The tolls would be removed and the facility would be returned to the department.
Okay. But because of the inferior way it was built, if they are non-toll roads, you still couldn't have trucks on.
In that lane, I don't believe the construction
They did
accommodate
not.
Commercial
It's got 16 inches and it's supposed to have 21 inches.
That's correct.
All right. And with the decision recently, possibly, if I got a lot going on, to not sole source the bid for South 77 to the Spanish, where does that put you?
So
if what I said is accurate.
So that's correct. Well, the department, through its process, made the determination not to accept the unsolicited proposal that was submitted for the I-77 South.
Similar to what you were talking about with the bridge.
That's correct. So that MPO requested the department to pursue a comparative analysis to look at delivery of that project as a traditional turnpike delivered project, if you will, as well as a P3. So that process continues. Once that process is completed, the department will certainly go back to the MPO, provide that analysis, and ultimately it would be up to the MPO whether they choose to proceed with delivery.
So y'all are working on that.
That's correct.
Have you ever compared what you charge for the road bypass versus what the Spanish charge for the I-77?
Well, in general, I mean, certainly on the Monroe Express.
Oh, this one. Bless you.
On which one?
On 540.
Yeah, so certainly on our facilities, there's a fixed toll rate schedule. So there is a rate schedule that is consistent on a per mile basis as well as any time of day that you use the facility. Obviously, with an express lane style facility, that is dynamically priced, variably priced based on supply and demand. So those toll rates do.
So 540 would not be dynamically priced.
That's certainly not contemplated. A toll rate schedule that has been adopted by the board that is a fixed rate schedule that is consistent on a rate per mile basis. That is slightly different than the Monroe Expressway rate per mile, but the structure is the same.
I say as a compliment, because the average folks of the state know that they pay $28 to go 7 miles on I-77, and they're very happy with what they pay on the road bypass. Very happy with what they pay on 540. But they're very unhappy about the southern. So, okay. All right. Any other questions? I've taken up all the time. Got some virtually? Huh? Okay. Anything else you want to close with?
No, thank you for your time. Certainly, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out obviously, we continue to work closely with staff over the coming months.
Last thing, land acquisitions below budget on this last portion.
Say that again?
Land acquisition cost below budget on this last.
So the the standard acquisition costs are in line with estimates. Obviously, there's map back components on the phase one project. There's not that same consideration on phase two.
DOT actually map back 28 years ago. Way back to five. Thank you for your patience. I hope.
I got a Reese's cup, so I'm great. We're there for education. Thank you all very much.
Thank you both for joining us. Couple of announcements.
Yeah, don't forget, next month, we're up at Appalachian State. Continue to watch your email. So we'll continue to provide information as we get it about the meeting and different activities. We are trying to set up a Q&A with students for 11 o'clock. That's not been confirmed yet. So as soon as we get that confirmed, we'll share that.
If you have a problem with that, let me know. Sooner the better. Can we bring Mac Brown with us? Oh, we're all over that.
I know Cindy has something real quick.
Yes,
And-
yeah. Thank you.
Yes, and also, and I may have said this already, the presentation from Electricities was canceled, was not necessary. Last thing was just our tip custom to just present the statement of economic interest evaluations of all new members or designees. So you have the evaluation for Mr. McKinley Wooten Jr., another designee for Secretary Penny, and just as a general reminder for all commission members to continue to review your personal information and watch out for conflicts of interest. That's all.
All right, it's fluid. All right, anything else? We will give Secretary Marshall an opportunity to make a motion to adjourn. And I want to thank Joa and all the other folks that made this jump up on the table. And thank you for your participation. I haven't heard of anyone not going to vote in October for designee.
Well, I'll be there. I'll have some, either I'll be there or somebody else.
I'll be there virtually.
Well, virtual, mine's virtual, not personal.
No, I've got a speech that morning, which I had no idea we were going to be out of town that day. Hope that speech. Let's go. I'd love to go down to upstate. Love to go.
Love to have you.
I know.
Did Billy get the speech?
I'm not as charming.
He's going to work on remote notarization.
All right. Okay. Secretary Marshall, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We're